Hello everyone and welcome to this edition of Vintage NASCAR Owners, Billy Hagan. Billy Hagan is a former NASCAR Cup Series and Xfinity Series team owner, whose team competed from 1969 through 1994. In his team's peak years, Billy Hagan was one of NASCAR's top owners. Originally, Hagan served as his own driver for his team, Billy Hagan Racing. Behind the wheel of a number 52 Mercury Cyclone at Talladega in 1969 at the track's debut race, which was shrouded in controversy due to tire failures during a tire test held at the track prior to the event. Most of the sport's top drivers boycotted the race. Hagan went on to finish 8th. He would not field another car until 1975, when he would field a number 92 Stratograph Chevrolet in 5 races for Skip Manning. Manning's best start was 20th at Talladega in the spring, and Manning's best finish was 11th at Darlington in the fall. Hagan also made one start in his number 92 Chevrolet at Talladega in the summer, starting 23rd and finishing 19th. Hagan's first full season that his team would run was the 1976 NASCAR Cup Series season, with Skip Manning behind the wheel of the number 92 Stratograph Chevrolet. They would make 25 starts throughout the season. Billy Hagan would serve as his team's crew chief for the 1976 season. Skip Manning got into a horrific accident at Darlington in the Southern 500 in the fall, when Joe Frazen T-boned Manning after he spun and was coming back down the track a little bit. Other than Manning having his foot trapped in the car until rescue workers could free him, Manning was relatively alright other than a broken leg. Their best start was 11th, twice, at North Wilkesboro and Dover in the spring, and their best finish was 8th at Ontario in the fall. This season was decent, considering this was Manning's rookie season, overall scoring 4 top 10s and finishing 18th in final Cup Series point standings. Skip Manning won 1976 Rookie of the Year honors in the Cup Series. Manning returned to the team for the 1977 NASCAR Cup Series season behind the wheel of the number 92 First National Travelers Checks Chevrolet. Tex Powell served as crew chief for the team in 1977. The season got off to a slow start, netting 8 DNFs in the first 15 starts of the season, though they recovered some by season's end. Manning's best start was 6th, and his best finish was 3rd, both coming at Talladega in the summer. Overall, they scored 1 top 5 and 8 top 10s, finishing 14th in final Cup Series point standings. For the 1978 NASCAR Cup Series season, Hagan brought back Manning to drive the team's number 92 Stratograph Chevrolet. Darrell Bryant served as the team's crew chief for the 1978 season. Manning would make the first 15 starts of the season for the team before Hagan and Manning would part ways. Manning's best start and finish was 4th, both coming at Talladega in the spring. Overall, in 15 starts, he scored 1 top 5 and 4 top 10s. After Manning's departure from the team, Hagan brought in Mel Larson to run at Michigan in the summer, finishing 33rd. Terry Labonte was the next driver to get a chance behind the wheel of Hagan Racing's number 92 Duck Industries Chevrolet, making 5 starts. His best start was 13th at Richmond in the fall, and his best finish was 4th at Darlington in the fall. Overall, in 5 starts, Labonte scored 1 top 5 and 3 top 10s. Dick May also made 2 starts. His best finish was 10th at Dover in the fall. After having a few different drivers make starts for the team the season prior, in 1979, Billy Hagan signed Terry Labonte to drive his number 92 Stratograph Chevrolets and Buicks full-time. Darrell Bryant continued to serve as the team's crew chief. 1979 was a reasonable season for Hagan Racing, results-wise, though they were a little bit high in DNFs, netting 10 throughout the season. Labonte's best start was 2nd at Texas World Speedway. His best finish was 3rd at Darlington in the fall. Overall, they scored 2 top 5s and 13 top 10s, finishing a solid 10th in final Cup Series point standings. It may have been a brand new decade, the 1980s, but in 1980, Hagan Racing remained essentially the same team as they had in 1979. Apache Stoves became the number 92 Chevrolet's primary sponsor, starting at Daytona in the summer. Labonte's best start was 3rd at Texas World Speedway in the summer. His best finish was 1st at Darlington in the fall. This was both Hagan Racing and Terry Labonte's first Cup Series victories. Overall, they scored 1 win, 6 top 5s, and 16 top 10s, finishing 8th in final Cup Series point standings. The 1981 NASCAR Cup Series season saw Terry Labonte return to Hagan Racing's number 44 Stratograph J.D. Stacy Buick. Darrell Bryant served as the team's crew chief for the first 15 races of the season. Terry's father Bob served as crew chief for 2 races before suitcase Jake Elder came in to finish the 1981 season. Considering all the changes at the crew chief position, this was another solid season for the team, spending 10 weeks in the top 5 and 27 weeks inside the top 10 in point standings. Labonte's best start was first, twice, in Atlanta in the spring and Texas World Speedway in the summer. His best finish was second at Riverside in the spring. Overall, he scored 2 poles, 0 wins, 8 top 5s, and 17 top 10s, finishing 4th in final Cup Series point standings. Hagan entered a Chevrolet Camaro stock car in the 24 Hours Le Mans. The vehicle had a small block 350 engine powering it. Funded by and running under Hagan's company name, Stratigraph, was entered in the Imsa GT class. They qualified respectively, though DNF'd a short time into the event due to an accident caused by brake failure. The other drivers on his team were Cale Yarborough and Bill Cooper. Terry Labonte would return once again to Hagan Racing's number 44 J.D. Stacy Texas Jeans Chevrolets and Buicks. This season really showed us what the team was capable of, spending 17 weeks to top the point standings, never falling lower than 3rd at any point throughout the season. Labonte's best start was first 3 times, at Martinsville and Pocono in the spring, then Riverside in the summer. His best finish was second 6 times, at both Nashville races, at Rockingham, North Wilkesboro, and Talladega in the spring, then Riverside in the summer. Overall, scoring 2 poles, 0 wins, 17 top 5s, and 21 top 10s, finishing 3rd in final Cup Series point standings. For the 2nd year in a row, Hagan and his Stratigraph Incorporated team entered a Chevrolet Camaro stock car in the 24 Hours Le Mans in the GT class. His team fared much better in 1982, ending the endurance race 17th overall and 2nd in the GT class. The other drivers on the team were Gene Felton and Tom Williams. Billy Hagan continued to grow his race team in 1983, signing legendary crew chief Bill Inman as the team's crew chief starting in 1983, also signing Budweiser as primary sponsor of the team's number 44 Chevrolet. Terry Labonte returned once again to the team full-time. His best start was first 3 times, at both Michigan races, then Dover in the fall. His best finish was first at Rockingham in the fall. Again, Hagan Racing had another solid season, spending 3 weeks inside the top 5 and 26 weeks inside the top 10 in Cup Series point standings. Overall, they scored 3 poles, 1 win, 11 top 5s, and 20 top 10s, finishing 5th in final Cup Series point standings. Hagan's IMSA GTO Camaro returned to the United States and won the inaugural Miami IMSA GTO Grand Prix in February of 1983, with Gene Felton behind the wheel. The following season, in 1984, Terry Labonte would return to the number 44 Piedmont Airlines Chevrolet full-time. 1984 was an incredible season for Hagan Racing, spending 14 weeks atop the point standings and 28 weeks inside the top 5 in point standings. Labonte's best start was first twice, at Riverside in the spring and Dover in the fall. His best finish was first also twice, at Riverside in the spring and Bristol in the summer. Overall, they scored 2 poles, 2 wins, 17 top 5s, and 24 top 10s, winning the 1984 NASCAR Cup Series championship. Hagan also fielded a second car at Riverside in the fall, a number 1 Piedmont Airlines Chevrolet, for Joe Milliken, starting 28th and finishing 38th after his engine failed on lap 53. Terry Labonte, Gene Felton, and Billy Hagan took the GTO win and 6th place overall at the 24 Hours of Daytona, as well as winning the GTO and placing 8th overall at 12 Hours of Sebring in March of 1984. For the 1985 NASCAR Cup Series season, of course, Terry Labonte returned to the number 44 Piedmont Airlines Chevrolet. Steve Meal served as the team's crew chief starting in 1985. Labonte was off to a very solid start to the season, even looking as if he could possibly repeat as champion, before the season hit a rough patch in the middle of the year, though they would end up spending 27 weeks inside the top 10 in point standings. Labonte's best start was first 4 times, at both Rockingham races, Dover in the spring, and Riverside in the fall. His best finish was first, at Riverside in the spring. Overall, they scored 4 poles, 1 win, 8 top 5s, and 17 top 10s, finishing 7th in final Cup Series point standings. In 1986, Billy Hagan would bring Terry Labonte back to drive his number 44 Piedmont Airlines Oldsmobile full-time. The season started strong, though mechanical failures soon derailed their season's positive momentum. Labonte's best start and finish was both first at Rockingham in the spring. Overall, they scored 1 pole, 1 win, 5 top 5s, and 10 top 10s, finishing 12th in final Cup Series point standings. Billy Hagan fielded his team's first ever Busch Series, now Xfinity Series, entry, a number 69 J.W. Hunt Oldsmobile at Charlotte in the spring, where Sterling Marlin started 29th and finished 29th. At the conclusion of the season, Labonte and Hagan parted ways. After the same driver was behind the wheel of the team's race cars since the end of the 1978 season, for the 1987 season, Sterling Marlin became Hagan Racing's new driver of their number 44 Piedmont Airlines Oldsmobile. There were bright spots, though they just didn't start the strongest. As the season drew on, though, there was definitely improvement. Marlin's best start was 4th at Rockingham in the fall, and his best finish was 3rd at Charlotte in the fall. Overall, they scored 4 top 5s and 8 top 10s, finishing 11th in final Cup Series point standings. In 1988, Sterling Marlin returned to the number 44 Piedmont Airlines Oldsmobile. Jake Elder served as the team's crew chief for the 1988 season. Everything was improved across the board for the team from the season prior. Marlin's best start was 2nd at Talladega in the summer, and his best finish was also 2nd at Martinsville in the spring. Overall, they scored 6 top 5s and 13 top 10s, finishing 10th in final Cup Series point standings. Marlin also made 4 Xfinity Series starts for Hagan Racing in their number 44 Piedmont Airlines Oldsmobile. His best start was 5th at Richmond in the fall, and his best finish was 11th at Charlotte in the spring. A few things changed for the Hagan Racing team in 1989. First off, their number changed to 94 at the request of their new primary sponsor, Sunoco. Also, Darrell Bryant returned to the team as crew chief for 1989. Sterling Marlin remained the team's driver through all the changes. His best start was 4th at Martinsville in the fall, and his best finish was 2nd at Charlotte in the spring. The team had a reasonable season, spending 17 weeks inside the top 10 in point standings. Overall, they scored 4 top 5s and 13 top 10s, finishing 12th in final Cup Series point standings. Once again, Marlin made 2 more Xfinity Series starts in the number 48 Oldsmobile for Hagan Racing. His best start was 3rd, and his best finish was 25th, both coming at Charlotte in the fall. Another new decade, the 1990s, and in 1990, Sterling Marlin returned to the number 94 Sunoco Oldsmobile for what turned out to be his final season with the team. Steve Lloyd served as the team's crew chief for the 1990 season. Marlin's best start was 3rd at North Wilkesboro in the fall, and his best finish was also 3rd at Talladega in the summer. Overall, they scored 5 top 5s and 10 top 10s, finishing 14th in final Cup Series point standings. A familiar face returned to Hagan Racing for the 1991 NASCAR Cup Series season. Terry Labonte became the driver in the number 94 Sunoco Oldsmobile. Dewey Levengood served as the team's crew chief for the 1991 season. Facts are facts, this was not a very strong season for Hagan Racing. Labonte's best start was 1st at Watkins Glen in the summer. His best finish was 5th at Darlington in the fall. Overall, they scored 1 pole, 0 wins, 1 top 5, and 7 top 10s, finishing 18th in final Cup Series point standings. Now, a rather off-season. In 1992, Hagan Racing rebounded quite well. Terry Labonte returned to the number 94 Sunoco Oldsmobile. They spent 7 weeks inside the top 5 and 24 weeks inside the top 10 in point standings. Labonte's best start was 3rd twice, in Atlanta and North Wilkesboro in the spring, and his best finish was 2nd at Sonoma in the spring. Overall, they scored 4 top 5s and 16 top 10s, finishing 8th in final Cup Series point standings. There were sweeping changes again for Hagan Racing in 1993. Pete Wright became the team's crew chief for the 1993 season. The team's new number was 14, and their new sponsor was Kellogg's. The team even switched back to Chevrolets. Things really kind of fell back to the way things were for the team a couple seasons prior. Labonte's best start was 3rd at Watkins Glen in the summer, and his best finish was 6th at North Wilkesboro in the spring. Overall, they scored 10 top 10s and finished 18th in final Cup Series point standings. At the conclusion of the season, Labonte and Hagan parted ways again. The 1994 NASCAR Cup Series season ended up being the final season that Billy Hagan Racing was in existence. John Andretti became the team's new driver of their number 14 Financial World Chevrolet. They were way off, racking up 10 DNFs in the 18 starts that John Andretti would end up making. After the debut race at Indianapolis, Andretti and Hagan parted ways. Andretti's best start was 9th at Charlotte in the spring, and his best finish was 19th at Sonoma in the spring. Late in the season, Canadian racer Randy McDonald made one start for the team at Rockingham in the fall, starting 35th and finishing 24th. In 1996, Hagan's shop was purchased by Triad Motorsports. Hagan would become a co-owner of the team until it would close its doors in 1999. So in 547 NASCAR Cup Series starts, the team scored 15 poles, 6 wins, 101 top 5s, and 236 top 10s, with the best points finish of first in 1984 by Terry Labonte. Also, the team made 7 Xfinity Series starts. Thank you for watching, and take care.